did you learn from George at Salesforce that was really instrumental for you?
Oh my gosh. George is one of those pivotal figures in my life and career as well. And George came to Twilio about 6 months after I joined Twilio. So I joined right around the time I was actually the last hire pre-IPO. And I came onto a sales team as an enterprise seller because I've gone back and forth between sales management and an IC role. And I really wanted just an IC role building the enterprise sales team there. So George comes on about 6 months later, and George radically shifted everything at Twilio. He was a sales leader who Jeff Lawson respected. They had this great partnership, and George made the case for sales and for go-to-market. And over the coming years, George and I built this great partnership. And part of his story that resonated with me was that he has a very non-traditional story of success. He started at Salesforce as an intern. And over the course of, over a decade, he ends up as the CMO and then the COO of Salesforce, which is just this wild backstory. And the way he navigated that was so incredible. So at Twilio, he similarly kind of partnered, identified me in a way and picked me out and continued to have my back and educate me about the next step at each step. And, by the end, he and I had developed this great relationship, and he would challenge me. He challenged me through almost like haikus. He would give me these, here's a couple of lines about the thing you need to learn next. Go figure it out. And he would certainly not do it for me. There were times when he would say, okay, there's this really important meeting that happens at Twilio once a month. Basically, there's only SVPs and above in it, but it's the most important meeting. You should get yourself into that meeting. Go. Now, he could have put me on the invite. He did not. He challenged me to go figure it out. And, a lot of the wisdom of George is one of the smartest people I've ever met. At the end of the day, it's about math. He's got a great model, probably one of the best analysts out there. And understanding the way that he thought about the business, the model behind it, what matters, how you play that revenue game was ultimately the playbook that he taught me. And so grateful that he's still my first call when I get stuck on a problem, still very much my first call. And it's radically changed my life through his support and sponsorship.
I've learned that it's really important to not be afraid to ask the stupid questions. When you say the revenue game, what does that mean?
I mean, what it really boils down to is the math behind success. And the thing that George brought to Twilio that was such a revelation for me was, I think when he arrived, we had this grand plan. If we're going to, IPO, we were $200 million run rate. And Jeff had set out this vision of we're going to get to $1 billion run rate. But then behind that, there weren't really any mechanics. The math wasn't there. We were just going to make more great product and have a self-service experience and more developers would buy it. What George brought was an operating model and the math that actually proved out how to get there. At its base, it really is a very simple concept, but in execution, it is so nuanced and you have to get really good at managing that model. But really, it's about winning that revenue generating game and how do you continue to make things go up and to the right in a predictable way, not on hope, but something that you can control that's going to drive revenue up and to the right.